Hello everybody, we're back with another playthrough here in Oxygen Not Included. We just finished the Prehistoric Planet Pack mini-series. We were able to take down Demoldir, and we're working on more DLCs just to kind of get a brief look at them before we do our everything playthrough that I'm working on, where we do all of the DLCs. We're going to try to do as much of the game in one playthrough as we can. For now, I'm going to focus on the Frosty Planet Pack, because I didn't really do much with that one yet. I know a little bit more than I did about the Prehistoric Planet Pack, but not a ton. So we're going to get in there and get started with that. Much like we did with the Prehistoric Planet Pack, we're going to do a survival classic world, and we're going to do the Ceres asteroid, which is the asteroid themed for this playthrough. We're going to select one that has geoactive on it. It's the only thing I care about. I like having extra geysers. As far as DLCs, we're going to just do the Frosty Planet Pack because I want to focus on that. And in story traits, during the prehistoric one, I left in the Printerceptor and I didn't get around to doing it. So we're going to leave that one there again, and we're going to stick with that. So that'll be our map to start with. For our duplicants this time, we're going to go with a pretty standard start. Going to have a researcher to get our research going real fast. We're going to have a digger. I got rolled one with some pretty high excavation, so we can dig stuff out pretty quickly. And I got pretty lucky with a rancher. We have one that has frostproof, which is, I believe, a new one from the Frosty Planet Pack DLC, which makes them immune to chilly surroundings. I really considered re-rolling until I got that for all three of them, but I thought that would be a little cheesy, and I really don't feel like sitting here for 20 minutes while I re-roll until I get all of them. Frosty Space Hut is going to be the name of this playthrough, and we're going to jump right in. So before we get started, I'm just going to touch briefly on what we're going to do and our goals here in this playthrough. Unlike the last two ones we did, during the Prehistoric Planet Pack, we had a timer because there was an asteroid that was going to hit 200 cycles in, and the one before that, we were doing a full achievement run on the base game, which means that we had to rush to get Carnivore done, we had to rush to get Locavore and Super Sustainable done. This time, we're not doing any time-limited achievement stuff like that. So the only thing we're going to focus on, and our goal for completing this series, is finishing the Full Steam Ahead achievement. It's actually an imperative. It's one of the ways to win the game, and it's only from the Frosty Planet Pack. So we need to discover the geothermal plant. We need to connect it up to the heat pumps and pump liquids from the heat pump into the geo vents and clear the blocked geo vent to maximize the power plant's efficiency. So basically we have to find and run the geothermal power plant to create a ton of power for us. So that's our goal. We're going to focus on that. Everything else, if we get achievements, great, but I'm not going to worry about negating any of them. We're not going to focus on those until we get to our everything playthrough where we do all of the DLCs at once, which will be quite a challenge down the road for us. So, other things that are slightly different here, as you can tell, because it's the Frosty Planet Pack, everything is very, very cold. We don't have any access to water because there's plenty of ice around that would be water, but it is all frozen because it's minus 40, minus 29, minus 22. This is a very, very cold planetoid, and we're not going to have that change anytime too quickly. So one thing about that is that while we want to get a bathroom up and running as quickly as possible, for the first cycle, it doesn't really matter too much because if they make a mess, that polluted water is going to freeze, and then we just have to clean it up before it thaws. So we're going to focus on getting a nice warm bedroom as our number one priority. We'll probably still get a bathroom set up before cycle 1 or 2 is over, but that is not priority number one. So first thing we want to do is get down here to this research portal. So I'm going to set some ladders here. Notice we can build these right away without doing any digging. That's because we're building them out of wood, using up our wood stockpile. We have to be careful with that because we don't want to use it all up, because that's also how we're going to keep warm at the beginning. But it is our first thing that we're going to start with. So I'm going to dig out to here. Then I'm also going to put in some snow tiles. Oh, I guess for that I actually have to do some digging first. But once we get some snow, I'll put some snow tiles here because the snow, it drops like sand and I don't want it to fall as we're digging. So we're going to let our duplicants get started with their digging. And we're going to get down here to unlock this research portal. And while we're doing that, I'm going to focus on getting up to this room here where we already have a wood heater. So let's do, I think here. I'm going to try to make this one a little different than I normally build. Normally, I try to make it very blocky, where there's just tunnels that are straight up and down. This one I'm going to try to go up right here. Yeah, let's do it right here. We'll end up getting rid of this ration box because I want to leave this wood heater as my initial first bedroom. In our room there, we're going to do some cots, and we're going to put them down in very specific spots. And I'll show you why in just a second. Let's do this one. Oh, this one is in the wrong spot. We actually want it right there. And then once we get this coat rack out of the way, we'll put one there. And the reason is these wood heaters can heat 4 blocks up in each direction. And we want the beds to have a heat source. So that'll be good. We can put in a door once we get some cinnabar dug up to do it. And let's, for now, let's just put a here so we can get up to that. The idea with these is the wood heaters are... They do a couple of different things. They give off light in a 6 tile range. They give off a brightness of 450 lux. This is an important number because you need 1,000 lux in order to wake sleeping duplicants, which means this is a dim light. It'll be fine in a bedroom, but it will give off heat, which means that duplicants that are around it get the frost resistance buff, so they are temporarily immune to the chilly surroundings and soggy feet debuffs, which is important in this playthrough. And it'll also prevent them from being debuffed for having slept in a cold room, which is also very important. So that's going to keep us nice and warm. So that's going to be our priority. Once we get down here and unlock this, we'll be able to get the access to do more of the wood heaters. So that's why we're going there first. But we're going to get this in place. And then after that's done, we'll work on getting a bathroom set up. I just want to make sure that on their first night, our duplicants get to sleep in a nice, warm barracks. While we always kind of have to be careful of our duplicants to make sure that they don't trap themselves, this one you got to be extra careful because with all the snow around, people can easily get trapped. So Stinky got trapped up here. We're going to let him back out so that we can get this finished up. And you can see even more snow has fallen here. So just got to keep a mindful eye on that, especially in this starter biome with all the snow. We did get the research portal unlocked, so we're going to unlock that. Once they go down to activate that, we'll be able to get a few things. We'll have our new wood heater that we can build. We'll also have a way to make water from the ice with the ice liquefier. And I can't remember the third item that we get. Oh, we will have the ability to craft these wood tiles so that we are able to build using wood. We want to be careful at the beginning, like I said, because we only have a limited supply of wood. But once we can manage to get some flocks set up, we'll be able to get wood from them, which will be a really good way to get some building materials since we don't have a lot of stone in the starting biome. As we don't have a time crunch going on, it will be nice to be able to play with a little bit more of a laid-back kind of approach. So we're going to definitely be focusing on just getting things stable more as we go instead of trying to rush forward to unlock things. So that being said, we're going to put in our bathroom to start here. So I want to do some wash basins. We don't have a way to get water into them yet, but we will very shortly once I build that. So that's okay. We're going to do this a little different than I normally would. We're just going to make a small one. We're going to have a heater in it because nobody likes to go to the bathroom in a cold outhouse. So we're going to do that. Also going to use some of this snow tile underneath here to make a floor. Actually, just going to go the whole way across. A lot of that is snow, and it'll just fall out, give us a problem later. We need a door on this bathroom. Then we'll put a couple of snow tiles above. We're going to keep this very small, start the things out, so that we can just get it built up and going. We need to be able to do our ice liquefier. We need some more metal ore for that. So we're going to dig through here because this is where we're going to put our next setup, which is going to be getting our research station. Again, we're going to need metal to do it. So we're going to dig through here and get that. And we're going to get a thing set up for doing some research. We want to get into farming right away. Just wanted to show you that while we did get our bedroom set up, we did not quite get the bathroom set up. But as I said, the polluted water is mostly just freezing up. It actually got a little warmer here because of the wood heater, so it's taking a little longer. But we're going to just mop that up, and we're going to make sure we clean up that polluted water before it gets warm enough that it melts for us, and we'll be fine. Not super worried about that. I do want to get this set up soon because we want them to have the buff for having bathroom or a latrine, as it were, to go in. So that's our priority. But we have the same issue going on up here. It's sticking around because the wood heater is keeping it just warm enough to do it. We'll get it mopped up, no problem. And stinky now too. Oh, isn't a problem. Down here, it just turned straight into polluted ice. So not a big. We'll get this set up and get some water going into those wash basins so we can have a proper bathroom before the end of cycle 2 probably, and we'll be good there. Another thing I want to do is that there is a coat rack here, and we're going to rummage through that so that we can get that coat off of there, because that'll be useful for one of our duplicants to stay nice and warm. And we'll just give it to Ellie. She's the first one in the list, so she gets the lucky first warm coat. That will help her to have a little bit of extra warmth and not be so frustrated with how cold it is. Let's see if it shows it on here when she's wearing that. Not sure. But it definitely does help with making her frost resistant, so that it's not quite as bad. I should check to make sure. As far as that goes, is she our duplicant that already has frost resistance? No, that's a timed one. So let's check out our. So Stinky is our digger. Ruby is our frostproof. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't put the warm coat on the person that's already frostproof. So we're set. So the next warm coat we get will go to Stinky because Ruby's already frostproof. Will not help her as much. Now that we've gotten that off, we can deconstruct this, and that'll be where we put our next cot for our next bed. And now that we've gotten some cinnabar, we can continue with building our setup for our bathroom. We need to get more so we can get our research station in place. We're doing a slight alteration on our standard research setup, and that's in putting a wood heater down here so that we have some heat and some light. I want to experiment to see if this is enough light to give us the lit workspace buff. I think it should be, but I'm not positive. So we're going to put this here and see if the research gets that buff or not. First research we want to work on is getting to the farm tile. The reason we want to do that is because these Alveo Vera plants are what is going to be our oxygen production in the early game here. They consume carbon dioxide and they produce oxalate. The wild ones consume 500 milligrams per second of carbon dioxide and produce oxalate. If we can get them into domestication, it drops from 8 cycles of growth to make the oxalate, and it goes down to 2. So we get oxalate faster, and they consume 2,000 milligrams per second of carbon dioxide. And what's important about that is that our duplicants, as they're breathing out, exhale 2,000 milligrams per second of carbon dioxide. So one domesticated plant should be enough to handle all the CO2 produced by each of our duplicates. So we don't need as many. We domesticate them. The domesticated ones only need ice in order to be farmed, and we have plenty of ice. Let's see. So that's going to be our first research. Once we get some farm tiles set up, we'll get the oxalate production going, and then we'll work on food production so that we have at least a little bit of stability in our base going forward. We'll put a door on the back end of this base, or this barracks, as well as this one on the front, so that they actually get the buff. At least they have a warm bed for now and a latrine. But we definitely need to keep an eye on the morale with as much stress they're dealing with in the icy area around here. We have finished our early research, and so I'm getting ready to lay out our farms here. And I'm going to just do a small setup here to get started, because I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm not positive. So we may need to make adjustments. It's best to start early small early, and then that way we have room to make changes in case we massively fly. So I'm going to do 3 farms like this, and I'm going to have a couple rows of Pikeapples, and then I'm also going to have those cultivatable soil. How we build. I need to dig more before I can build those. Just fine. We have more coming up. Once we do that, we'll have a couple rows of Pikeapples and 1 full row of the Alveo Vera plants. And that's what we're going to start with so that we have oxygen production and some food. Let's check our print here. I'm not in any rush to bring in new duplicants, so I'm only going to bring them in if they're an asset to the colony, because we don't have a time crunch at this time around. So I don't like decreased strength at all. It is an annoying thing to deal with. So those are both immediately no. And I really don't like small bladder. That'd have to be a really great duplicant. Need to deal with that. And I just don't. So we're just going to take the curative tablets and move on. Starting off with just a few dupes means it's going to go a little slower, but I'm okay with that because, like I said, there's no time pressure for us in this playthrough. We can focus on just keeping these 3 dupes happy and safe. Finish some more research, and the next thing I want to work on getting is a new item for the Frosty Planet Pack, and that is this oxalate scum. We're going to be producing oxygen in the form of oxalate, and what this allows us to do is pick up that oxalate and deliver it to the sconce so that it can release oxygen in the environment where we want it. So we'll be able to have oxygen in areas that we want the oxygen to be released. So that's the next thing we want to research. I did get to the advanced research as well as the food research. And we are adding in the world's smallest mess hall. Minimum size for the mess hall is 12 blocks. If we want to make it into a great hall later, we're going to go 32 blocks. Though we may, once we get the research, go straight onto the new banquet hall. But this will serve us our needs for now, because as we learned in our last playthrough, the mess tables are now communal. Different people can use them on different shifts. So I'm going to have 4 so that way we have plenty of tables, even if I put up to 4 people on a shift that are going to dinner at the same time. And honestly, we could get away with a lot less, but we need a 12 space room, so we might as well put in 4 mess tables so that we have a nice symmetrical room. But we only ever going to have, at the early part of the game, until we go past 8 duplicants, 2 people on lunch at the same time. So 2 tables would have been more than enough for this. So once we get that done, we'll have the buff for the mess hall, the latrine, and the barracks done, which will help us with the early game morale. And we can just focus on getting our oxygen and our food supply up and running. Still need to get more farm tiles put down. We need to dig out some stuff in order to get that happening. And they're slowly making their way down to get it all done for me. And we will continue on from there. We've got our farms up and running, and we're actually harvesting our first round of oxalate off of the Alveo Vera. When they're domesticated, they grow pretty quickly. It only takes 2 cycles to get a full batch of them done, and they'll produce 36 kilograms of oxalate from each plant, which is a pretty decent amount. I haven't done any math to know if that's actually going to be enough to produce the oxygen we need, but it will be enough for sure because we have so many plants to get rid of the carbon dioxide we have. So we'll see how it works out. We may have to pivot and change things down that road. We are digging down here for now just to get down and grab some Pikeapple bushes so I can finish out this farm. Afterwards, I'm going to close this off for the time being because I do not want the carbon dioxide sinking really low, which we normally would, but because we have all of our Alveo Vera up here, I'm doing that just to keep it all close together in this early phase here. Once we have more duplicants and faster duplicants, we'll move those down to the bottom if we plan on keeping them long-term oxygen generation solution, or we'll switch to something else before that. But we want to come down here and get all the plants we can because we need them. We should probably grab these as well. These called shrubbery plants. They're like our muckroot or our hexalite plants from other maps. They give us some quick early calories until we get our farms up and running. So we're going to grab all of that stuff and move it up here. Let's make sure everything edible is set in here, and we'll just set this to 6 for now so that duplicants come down here and grab all that stuff before I end up closing it out. Like I said, I'm going to work my way across, and I'm going to get to all of these plants as well. We also get this one here. there. Pikeapple. Good. Get all those. And then we'll be able to fill out our farm and get things up and running, which means we'll have Pikeapples, which we can get thrown on the grill once we get a duplicant with the skill ready to do that. And we will be all set for our early game, and we can let our duplicants just go and build up some skill points while we continue to grow some food and some oxygen. As luck would have it, here at Cycle 9, we have a couple of dupes that I would be willing to bring into the colony. Both of these just have shabby dresser, which doesn't bother me at all. They have some pretty decent traits. However, we have our first instance of Frisia. I'm going to go with Frisia, who is our new duplicant added in the Frosty Planet Pack. She comes with frostproof, immune to chilly surroundings, and she is just pretty cool for this new planet pack. So we're going to bring her in, and we're going to immediately throw her into cooking, even though it's not one of her favorite things, so that we have a cook, because we want to turn our Pikeapples into Pikeapple skewers, and we're going to turn off the ability to eat the Pikeapple, so that way we can get maximum food out of the Pikeapples that we have growing, because we want to be able to make sure that we are doing pretty good with that. One positive to this map, at least for now, until things start to heat up, is everything in here is very, very cold, so we will get food that lasts a lot longer just because of the cold temperatures. I think it would still have to be in a sterile atmosphere, so we might want to put our ration box in a place that's cold with some carbon dioxide, which will be down here. But actually, yeah, we'll just have to stick with that. We have to research it. So let's do research to get one. We could do... No, we do have a ration box. Where is our ration? Oh, it's just here. We just don't have the raw mineral that we need for it. That's very interesting. Is there somewhere where we have mineral that we can get? I mean, I think it's going to be one of the things that are harder to dig. Let's see. Is there one that's exposed so I can try to see if we can dig off a piece without hard digging? We can't. Okay. Well, let's do a research and research a refrigerator, because we can build that using metal, and then we can put that down here to store our food in this carbon dioxide minus 30-degree environment. We have ourselves an instant little deep freeze for all of our food. Actually, we'll put it up here because this area is going to get closed off. But so in order to do that, I need to put down a supercomputer there, and we'll connect that up. We have most of our plants here all dug up that we need for our farms to be up and running. You can see the carbon dioxide is building up, but it's getting eaten pretty quickly by the Alveo Vera plants, which are growing over just a couple cycles each and getting us more oxalate. I did set up some trackers over here to see the main things that we need to watch. Our oxalate is getting delivered to the sconces. I have one in our barracks. I have one in our latrine. I have one in our little research area here. Pretty much wherever I have a wood heater, I put an oxalate sconce. I figured our duplicants would be gathering around the wood heaters to keep themselves warm, which means they'll be in a nice oxygen-rich environment when they do that. So once we get this all set up, we'll be able to sustainably go for a little while, though like we normally do in Oxygen Not Included, we're kind of trading one problem for another. We now will have oxygen and we'll have food, but our Pikeapple bushes need phosphorite. Our Alveo Vera needs a continuous supply of ice, and we are going to have to come up with wood to keep our wood heaters running, so that we have a lot of things that we're going to have to work out some sustainability things going forward, which is going to require us to get into the new critters and plants that we have available to us, and that is okay. We're going to focus on doing that in the next playthrough. We've pretty much or next episode of the playthrough, we've pretty much reached the point where I have caught up with my knowledge of this pack. I've only ever touched it just a little bit before, and I've gotten just to this point. So now it will be figuring things out as I go, which could be interesting. So we're going to finish building this up. I'm going to do a few more tweaks, and we'll visit back in before the end of the episode just to make sure we have everything going smoothly. And then in the next episode, we'll work on our first sustainable farming initiative, trying to figure out how to get these Flox handled so that we can get a couple of things from them. They'll produce dirt, and they'll also produce wood, which will solve a lot of our problems. I don't know what I was thinking that a refrigerator used metal to make it. It is also made out of raw mineral. Fortunately, I was looking around, and while I can't dig the granite because I don't have a hard digging dupe as of yet, I can dig the igneous rock. So I just dug out a little bit here. Got what I need to put some ration boxes down. I removed the one up here, and we're going to put them here. So let's do a high priority here just to get them done. And our duplicant's going to get them set up. Then they'll collect all this food they've been digging out all over the map and get that in there. And we'll close this area off. Our farms are working pretty well. These Alveo Veras aren't running right now because there's no carbon dioxide for them to handle. But that's why we want to get this closed back off once we collect all the crops out of here that we need, because we want the carbon dioxide to build up in this area. And like I said, I want to take this playthrough a little slower. So we're going to keep things small here for a little while, let them do their thing, get some other things done, getting some supplies built up. I have trackers over here. We're going to get to the point where we have a decent amount of food, oxygen, and other supplies, and then we'll continue on after that. No need to rush things. We can just take our time with this playthrough and get everything right. In the next episode, I am going to go into doing some things that I have not ever done before. The Flox are going to be a new thing. I think that there's a pretty good cycle we can do where the Flox are fed on the Pikeapple bushes. Pikeapple bushes are grown using phosphorite, and then if I can get in here, we can get to the Bammoths, and the Bammoths drop Bammoth patties, which can be used to get phosphorite as well as clay. And the Bammoths themselves are fed on, if we look at digestion, they're fed on plume squash plants. Our plume squash plants can be grown using ethanol. The ethanol can be produced from the wood that we get from the Floxes. So I think we'll be able to set up a pretty good cycle with that and get things going in a renewable way. I haven't done any kind of math. I may run some numbers on using Professor Oakshell's calculator because that's an invaluable tool. Or I may just kind of wing it. I haven't decided yet. But that is going to be the goal for the next episode. We need to get some people kind of skilled up before we can do that. But it would be a good thing to do because that would also produce the wood that we need to keep our stockpile filled so we can keep our heaters going. And it will also give us the dirt we need for various things because the Flox will give us dirt from their excretions. So a lot of resources that we need. And it seems like a good way to go for this pack because it's all the new things that we have. So that's what I'm going to focus on in the next episode. But for now, we will leave our duplicants here doing their farming and just getting things set up so that they have everything they need to go forward. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.